Yes, everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Stephen Howson, and today I'm going to do a quick video talking about Paul Pogba and why I'm done with him. And this isn't a current form issue, I don't think. This is just a real big picture kind of look at what we've had with Paul Pogba for the last 5 years. So he hasn't found a home as a player, as a position, and he's always having to be accommodated. Always. We've always had to find someone to unlock Pogba, whether that was a Matic, whether that was a Fred. Someone else it was their job to get the best out of Paul Pogba. Good players shouldn't need to be accommodated. Good players should just play good. And there's somewhat of a degree that players around you can impact how you play, and your manager obviously has an impact in how you play. But good players take up the responsibility for being good players by themselves. Ronaldo didn't need to be accommodated, banging in goals. Cavani hasn't been accommodated, banging in goals. Bruno Fernandes just came straight into the team, started banging in goals. Even Ander Herrera, as a midfielder that United signed, didn't need accommodating into the team. We signed him as a number 10, and he played as a 6 and an 8. Just did what he was told. We signed Paul Pogba for a world record fee. And he's been, during that time, a bit of a luxury player that hasn't really provided the output that some of the other luxury players in the team have done. His style of play seems to lack a little bit of discipline. And there's always this thing of, why can't you get out of him the player that we see in international football? Or why can't we get the player that we played at Juventus? Well, actually, a couple of seasons ago, Pogba was putting up far better numbers for Manchester United than he ever did when he was in the FIFA Pro 11 playing for Juventus. The difference is he scored spectacular goals on the occasions that people was watching him on TV. But the metrics, he was actually performing better defensively and offensively when he was playing for United than he was for playing for Juventus. But even in his best season which was heavily reliant on penalties, the 18-19 season, 16 goals, 11 assists in 46 games, it's good, it's not amazing. The season United played 4-3-3 for the most part. Pogba was accommodated, played very well, given a lot of responsibility, took it well, and had two real quality workhorse midfielders alongside him, in Herrera and in Matic. And he started off the left of a midfield three in virtually every game of that season, and a lot of his decline sort of coincided with somewhat the injury that he had and Bruno Fernandes' arrival. One world-class season, and world-class is a push for calling that. It was his best season. Was it world-class? It's probably up for debate. Surely is not good enough. It's just abjectly not good enough. Especially when you frame that. Now, if he was Paul Scholes in it, turning up, putting in decent, if not spectacular performances, which obviously Paul Scholes did from time to time, you could make that work. But the constant speculation, which isn't helped by the fact that he's come out lately and said, hey, I've got no beef with Solskjaer, probably because that's the truth. Yet all of those other opportunities that you've had where the newspapers have said, Paul Pogba wants away, and he just sits there silent. Is that because there was the truth as well? Because once you start commenting on one shit comment in the Sun, you have to start commenting on every shit comment in the Sun. Otherwise, people assume the ones you ignored are the ones that are true and factual. Now, his contract's up in the summer. United have supposedly offered him £500,000 a week, or if they've not, they're about to. But why? This is a guy that is now 28 years of age, and you'd have to assume that the habits that have been formed in this time are fully embedded now. This is a player that's meant to be at the peak of his career. 28-year-old midfielder that's won a World Cup, that's won titles, that's won trophies at Manchester United. When you think back to what Brian Robson offered you, Roy Keane offered you, Paul Scholes offered you at 28 years of age, Paul Pogba's meant to be in that bracket of world-class, world record fee. Have we ever had that from Paul Pogba? Now, I don't think Manchester United, on the face of things, improves by losing players of the ability of Paul Pogba. I think he's better than Donny. I think he's better than McTominay and Fred. But if those are able to play to instructions and offer you a more consistent performance, even if it's a lower peak, then every single manager in the world is going to go with a more consistent performer. Because with Paul Pogba, you don't know what you're going to get. Now, I think there's some leadership qualities in him. We saw that from what he did with France. But again, you have to frame this on the fact that France are by far and away the best, probably first and second teams in the world. And international football is shit. And it's a much slower standard. And you can't rely on the standard of international football to dictate what you do and see in domestic football. I don't think he's a virus in the dressing room. I think he's very well liked. I think he's got a lot of friends, and I think he's quite influential. That doesn't mean he's a leader. Roy Keane said, you need someone coaching him on the pitch. Paul Scholes has said, I think you've got to be on him all the time. That's from his experience of playing with him when he was coming through the academy, and he says he don't think that's changed. I think he's probably right. He looks like he needs greatness alongside him rather than being the driving force, the dynamo in the centre midfield that's going to push others towards greatness, which is a shame because I think the ability is more than there with him. But if I have to be ruthless and I have to look at some of the issues that Manchester United have got, I wouldn't renew Paul Pogba's contract. I would say thanks. This is probably going to be framed as that you are a flop. I don't think he's been a flop, but he's not been the success that we hoped he would be. And I think there's a big difference between that. Where we thought he would be, where he probably has been, and then flop is probably down here. But because he never delivered on that world record breaking fee, he'd probably be considered a flop because that's kind of what people expect when you spend that sort of cash. And then you've got Raiola. Can you be arsed dealing with him? Can you be arsed lining that guy's pockets? The will he, won't he stay is a yearly, 6-monthly question that comes up with Paul Pogba. I thought Ollie handled it back in December last year spectacular when he said, yeah, Paul's going. Under Jose, that becomes an absolute circus and a distraction, and it never did. And there's a credit to Ollie and possibly even to Pogba as well that never became more of a circus. Possibly because there was an understanding already in place that he'll just go. Possibly because he's been offered a record-breaking contract at United. Is the disruption of having a Mino Raiola player in Paul Pogba worth the hassle? Pogba seems to have this belief that he's bigger and better than Manchester United. And maybe that's part of the reason why he's always maybe looking at the grass on the other side of the fence. I'll tell you this, if you went to Barcelona and put in some of the performances and wanted away as much as you do here, it ain't going to end well for you. And I don't think Real Madrid need you. Or have got the desire to pay for you. And the same goes for Juventus. The options for where Paul Pogba goes after Manchester United might be 2 or 3 places in the world. And if they decide, don't fancy him this year, then he's going to be stuck with a place to go. Pogba and Raiola are playing a dangerous game. One that backfired for them with Donnarumma to a certain extent, who I believe didn't want to leave in the end, but was forced to because they messed about so much. The same could happen here at United. We'll see what some of you guys are saying in the comments. Ross says, can't believe how Pogba started off the season with 7 assists since Ronaldo come in. Pogba has been a shadow again. He did start fantastic. He did. Let's not take that away from him. He did start fantastic, but he's not been there since. And the performance on Wednesday was extra disappointing. You get sent off and you put in the performance that you do against Liverpool, a world-class player reacts. There was no reaction from Pogba. It was pathetic. Parks, I thought you made a great point the other day. We always need other players for Pogba to be able to shine. Given his quality, shouldn't he be able to make the others better? Armand says people keep mentioning Pirlo when they talk about Pogba's midfield partners, but he played with Marquisio and Vidal, strong, hard-working, box-to-box players with great leadership. He did, yeah. He played with 3 of that 4, essentially. or with him being one of them. Miles says, has there been any other player whose ability and application has been debated consistently for over 5 seasons who has then gone on to be undroppable? If not, I think it's obvious we should let Pogba go. The only one that I could think of that might compare to this is Cantona. And Cantona, in Fergie and in Manchester United, found the right team for his temperament. But I don't think the professionalism and temperament is the reason behind what's going on with Paul Pogba. I think with Cantona, he found a lot of people that didn't like his behaviour, didn't know how to control his behaviour. And then in Sir Alex, he recognised exactly what Cantona was and allowed him to be him. I'm not sure that's the case with Paul Pogba. Miles says, bang on for opting for a player with less ability who can perform to instructions week in, week out over someone that can drop a 10 out of 10 and a 0 out of 10. Ross says, don't think he's been a flop, just hasn't delivered the expectations. That's where I kind of sit with him. But I think the time for United now has to be you're done. If you want to be a Manchester United player, why are we delaying on this contract? In January, you can talk to whoever. If it gets to January, you go talk to whoever because that's who you'll be playing for next year. That's the attitude United need to have. This used to be Manchester United, where we say jump and you say, it is my absolute pleasure to be able to jump for you. How high would you want me to jump? Not the way it would be enacted at the moment. Hostad says, having a year left on your contract should be the limit for a review. He's close enough to going for free and he doesn't want to sign, fair enough. He saw out his contract, take the circus on your way out. I think there's a lot of people will be with you on that one. Oliver said, the problem with Pogba is he's not good for the system, but he's too good to not play. Bang on, mate. Absolutely bang on. Christian says, I think Lindelof should be tried as a halfback, part DM, part sweeper, which could work to allow Bruno out with one of Van der Beek, McFred or McSauce. I'm not too sure about that. I don't think Lindelof's got the pace to play further up the pitch. Ross, we need to do what Liverpool did with Coutinho and Chelsea did with Hazard. You get money for him. I don't think you're getting anything for him. Even if you went in January now, you're getting nothing. Christian, his positional awareness and doesn't have to play as a deep line playmaker, can focus more as playing as a sweeper. I think that's talking about Lindelof. Alex says, drop Pogba, give Van der Beek a go in the 8 with Bruno. For me, it can work because there is balance. Possible. It's possible. I mean, the problem with Donny is he's not the best 6, he's not the best 8, and he's not the best 10. But if you want to prioritise him over Paul Pogba, I could understand that. I don't think he's as good as Pogba, but if he actually does it more consistently and more often, it's better than what you're currently getting from Paul Pogba, isn't it? And use the Pogba wage budget to go and sign an actual good number 6. That's going to help us start to dictate games. I'll summarise again then, for those that are just joining. Paul Pogba's always having to be accommodated, positionally, formationally, and I'm just sick of it. I don't think that a true, genuine, world-class player needs to be accommodated as much as Paul Pogba does. When I look at Ronaldo, Cavani and Bruno and I see how they came into the team and just hit the ground running, I don't understand why Paul Pogba needs a million different players and formations and pandering to be able to get the best out of him. I think he plays in moments, and some of those moments have been absolutely spectacular. I'd love to see some consistency from him. And even in his best seasons, when there's been consistency and a great number of assists and a great number of goals, there's still always question marks. I never feel like you're fully committed. You know, and I believe he's someone that wants to come do the podcast with us and with Rio. And, you know, I say what I'm about to say, knowing this, I don't think he's been the success we hoped he would be at Manchester United. And I don't feel he's willing to commit to United. Now, I have an inkling Rio probably knows something from the way he's been talking about him that he wants to commit. So maybe he will sign a contract. He's certainly not told me if that's the case. And I think it would be best for United if we parted ways from him. I think the door's still open for him. But he needs to start showing consistency. If Paul Pogba played to the level we know he is capable of doing, he is well worth whatever we want to pay him. But at the moment, when there's no consistency, what is the point in rewarding that with another fat contract? It's essentially another Sanchez situation where United have got to try and offload this guy at some point somewhere because he doesn't fit the system. And even though I don't think Pogba's a disruptive character, I think he's a very strong influence in the dressing room, very well liked. I don't think he's disruptive in the Sanchez kind of way or even in the Lukaku kind of way. But I think it's an issue politically that he has to play, especially if you reward him with being probably the highest paid player in the club, maybe behind Ronaldo. You know, people who thought Ronaldo was a risk. The guy's got 9 and 11. What is it with Paul Pogba? Do we look for another player to fully unlock him alongside what we've already got in Bruno Fernandes? That feels like another step to what should be a player that just manages to deliver. At what point do we ask Paul Pogba to deliver some consistency and not look to everyone else to be able to find the consistency for him? Hello, let me know in the comments. He's 28 years old. Do you see him changing at any point now? Or do you think that's probably ingrained into who he is as a footballer? I'd be interested to know you guys' comments. Cheers for tuning in. How to beat Manchester... Stop laughing. How to beat Manchester City is out tomorrow. Looking forward to dropping that one. I think we can do it. I think we've got to put in a near perfect performance, but I do think we can do it. Make sure to subscribe, turn on the notifications if you haven't already. And if you'd like to support the channel, consider becoming a member or check the link below to become a Patreon. This week I dropped a video of my analysis sessions that we do with the lads. If you're interested in seeing what goes into those, then that's on Patreon at the moment. Nice one for tuning in. See you in the next one. Laters.